Hey everybody, it's me, Asinellus, and welcome back to Reddit. Welcome to r/TreeLaw. And you may think this is the most boring subreddit in existence, but trust me. Trust me when I say I saw this recently, and this has some of the most amazing stories I have ever heard. This is basically a whole lot of people reposting from r/legal advice, r/pro revenge, r/malicious compliance. There is so much good stuff in this subreddit, and all to do with TreeLaw. You cannot imagine how good this is. Just let me give you a preview of what this is about. Alright, basically, here's a little cartoon which sums up TreeLaw. Oh no! The rare cherry tree Grandma bought with her from the old country. It's been chopped down. And only a week after my new neighbor complained about it, blocking his view too. TreeLaw? 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 Yeah, basically, it's about people whose trees get chopped down and they get a whole lot of money for it. And trust me, some of these stories are pretty insane, so quickly subscribe to the channel so you get to see this goodness, and stick around, we are about to have some fun. Alright, so here's the first one for the day. Pecan Tree severely cut back by trimmers who came to the wrong yard. My mother-in-law called my spouse in tears because when she got home from a long vacation, she found that the pecan tree that they had planted 33 years ago had been cut back by about 40%, severely impacting the shade the tree was providing to her home and possibly threatening its health. Additionally, all the ripe pecans were gone from the tree and yard, and the remaining crop on the tree are falling while not yet ripe, now presumably due to the trauma. She was able to find out who the tree trimming company was, and they told her they were not liable for their error, of course, and the police told her that they had not criminally trespassed because she doesn't have a no trespassing sign posted. I've told her to contact an arborist to evaluate the damage done to the tree, and that she may need to pursue this in a civil suit, but she's not sure what sort of lawyer she needs to contact. This tree was planted by my late father-in-law when my spouse was a child, and they feel nearly like they've lost a family member from this violation. Alright, and here's the update post with the sweet, sweet revenge. So, my mother-in-law had an arborist out who judged that, with some work and care, the tree should be able to survive the damage. By his appraisal, there was about $5,500 in damage to the tree. Sadly, the photos my mother-in-law was able to dig up wasn't enough to let the arborist give a good estimate of how much the tree's nut production would be impacted. So she just went forward with that number. She had a lawyer friend draft up a registered letter to the tree trimmers explaining the arborist's appraisal and her intentions to pursue repayment through whatever legal means were necessary. The trimmers came back with an offer to pay that amount, but in 3 installments over the next year. She counted half immediately and half in a month. 2 weeks later, she gets contacted by the trimmers' insurance company and they sent her a single check for the full amount. My mother-in-law is out some shade, but got some green instead. Thanks all for your advice. This is what I mean by crazy tree law, and $5,500 isn't even that much compared to some of the other posts here. Alright guys, this is a slightly different format, but that's just because these posts come from all over the place to end up on r/TreeLaw, and this one looks like it's gonna be good. My neighbor cut my trees. About a month after I moved into my new house, my neighbor cut half a dozen old growth trees, 12 to 23-inch diameter in cold weather climate near the property line. I had a survey done, $800, and discovered that all the trees cut were on my property. The owner of the house is a real estate agent married to a private contractor, so I suspect they knew what they were doing and they were trying to take advantage of my ignorance. I have their email address from the HOA, and I'm wondering if I should write a demand letter and send it certified mail, email, and ask what's going on, or hire a lawyer. State laws suggest that I'm entitled to 3 times the value of the trees, but I don't even know how to value the trees. I wouldn't have cut them, now I look at my neighbor's house instead of trees. Please help. Update, I met with a lawyer and gave him my version of events along with the estimates from my arborist and the plot from my surveyor. The value of the timber makes the theft a felony in this state, and since the trees were within 55 feet of a protected shoreland, they will likely have to pay a hefty administrative fine to the state for not getting the proper permits before cutting the trees. We know they didn't get the permit because it would have required a survey, and shown that the trees they wanted to cut were on my property. The lawyer is familiar with the lady of the house from her real estate dealings, mostly closings and title work, and she said she's a pain in the butt and that she doesn't like to admit fault. It's going to be a long slog. And now in a separate post we have another update, but short and sweet. Today they settled with me for $35,000 after the legal fees. Think about it, $35,000 for cutting down a few trees. Alright, so back again in this same older format. This is incredibly stupid, but my neighbor keeps calling the police because of leaves from my tree. Hello, r/legal advice. I feel like I'm starting to become a regular on this sub ever since I bought my house. Long story short, my neighbor will call the police if any leaves from my tree or any grass blades from me cutting my grass go into her yard. Yes, she stands out there and watches me cut grass. Last week we talked to one another with a police officer present so we can try and work something out. Basically, the moment she sees a leaf in her yard, she gets mad. I told her I'm not home all the time to constantly monitor every single effing leaf that falls from my tree. Oh, the tree is on the opposite side of the yard from her? My yard is not littered with leaves, and the police even said my yard looks fine. But she persists on calling the police out every time anything comes into her yard. I've done my research on the situation, as dumb as I think it is, but once a leaf falls from a tree, I'm not liable for what happens to it. That's what internet articles say at least. Could anybody produce any sort of Pennsylvania state legal documentation that says that leaves falling from a tree is not a crime? I can't believe I'm even here asking, but I'm really sick of the police coming out for everything I do outside. I just want to present it to my neighbor and the police so it stops. So now we have a long edit with a nice and juicy update. Since this blew up a little and others have asked what I've done to her for what she was doing, I will give a little more information about the past few months. Within a month of moving into the house this past December, I was out back after dark, it was no later than 8 PM, breaking down some boxes that we had left over from moving. I took a quick break from breaking them down, and see this hand throwing trash into my yard over the fence that separates our yard. I couldn't believe it. Up until this point, we had one interaction with one another, and that was when we were both outside shoveling snow. I introduced myself, and she introduced herself, and immediately warned me that she likes to call the police on anything that she sees wrong in the neighborhood. Basically bragging about it. From that greeting to trash being thrown into my yard, no interactions with one another. I bought a security camera system shortly after that to see how often she does it. We had bits and pieces of trash in our backyard shortly after moving in, and it was always on the side of the yard that was up against her fence. We just thought it was that whatever trash that the wind picked up and would stop at the fence, and we would pick it up whenever we would see it. Within 3 days of having the cameras, she's doing it again, and is on camera doing it. I waited for it to happen on 3 more occasions. After the second time I had it on video, anytime I saw her outside when I was outside, I tried to say hello and talk to her about it. But as soon as I said hello, she would go inside. After the 3rd time of throwing trash into my yard and being unsuccessful at talking to her about it, I called the police. There was no reason for her to be throwing trash into my yard. The police gave her a warning. The trash in our backyard that we thought was getting blown there stopped as well. Crazy! After that, I had been nothing but nice to her and would say hello whenever I saw her. I really don't want to have problems, but I had to do something about the trash being thrown into our yard. Anytime I would say hello, I would get ignored. She even went as far as to say she was going to charge me with harassment if I didn't stop. What? Last week, the police came out again for leaves in her yard. He suggested that we talk to one another while he was there to listen. She explained herself. She thinks that we're not maintaining our property well enough, and is upset that we aren't outside to pick up every leaf that falls from our tree, and doesn't want any grass clippings blowing into her yard. The police officer looked over at my yard, and looked back at her, and said, "There's nothing wrong with my yard, and that it looks better than a lot of properties in our city." She said that she bought her house and doesn't have a tree because she didn't want to clean up leaves. Newsflash, every house on our block has a tree, except for hers. She just wishes that we could take care of our yard better. Again, the police officer enforced to her that according to city law, our yard was fine. We agreed with each other that if we have any problems with one another that we could talk to each other first before getting the police involved. 8 days later, she called the police again for grass and leaves being in her yard. As far as I could tell, there wasn't any grass left behind. And when I say in her yard, I don't mean it's in the middle of her yard. It is mere inches from where our yards meet in her yard. She's been nothing but a headache since we moved in, and it's only getting worse. I've done nothing to her other than make sure she stopped throwing trash in my yard. Why has she started to do that? I don't know. Yeah, I really don't know about this woman, but I'm surprised the police aren't charging her for, fake calls, like false alarm callouts. I think if they started doing that, this problem would be solved instantly. Alright, this looks like a really, really good one. Neighbor cut down trees on my property. I know there's an original post link, but I couldn't find the original post, and this one sums it up pretty well, so let's get reading. Hello, legal advice community. I have not forgotten about you who helped set me on the path to justice. I'll get right to it. I can't speak to all the details, and I'm sorry about not continuing to update. After everything got underway, I figured it would be best not to. To keep it short, my lawyer and I, spoke to the police, who then spoke to the neighbours down and across the street, the one who witnessed my trees getting cut down, who stated they saw the neighbour and the company cutting down the trees, and then finally they spoke to him, the neighbour. I don't know much beyond that with the criminal investigation, what happened with the whole city document or the company, and why that is will be explained below. I hauled his butt to court. Well, first, the arborist came, as did the surveyor. The trees were on my property, and they were white oaks. The arborist gave me an estimate on having 15 mature white oaks brought and replanted on my property, which was just shy of 650,000. Though he did say some trees would die and that would drive the cost up. I also had my property appraised for the difference before and after losing my trees. It then became a question of whether I wanted to pursue my lost trees and see how much their lumber was worth, or sue for the replacement cost and loss of property value. Basically, do I want the trees back or do I want the cost of the ones I lost? Apparently, you can't have both. Well guys, I picked the trees. The actual court stuff started a lot sooner than I thought. We filed, a few weeks passed, and a few days before our day in court, his lawyer reached out with a settlement offer. Apparently, he was wealthier than I thought. We accepted, and while I can't speak to the details of it, I'm getting the trees back. It's going to take a long time, apparently several months, possibly all the way until September, since the process didn't start until just this week due to the holidays. But I will have all 12 trees back on my property at no cost to me. My neighbour has also put his house up for sale, and I haven't seen him for quite some time now. Oh well, there's a bit more to the settlement, but I don't feel comfortable speaking to that. Hopefully that's understandable. So basically, 12 white oaks got cut down, and they were valued, getting new ones in, at over $500,000. These were the crazy numbers I was talking about. And if you guys want to know why moving these trees just seems to take so much, look at that. Look at the way they're moving that whole tree. I didn't even know that was possible. But guys, as we're watching this, that is it from me for today. This was another installment of my daily Reddit videos. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, tell me what subreddits I should review. So TreeLaw is one I've never done before, so I hope you enjoyed it. Definitely tell me if you like it and if you want to see more. I'll be happy to make more videos because this subreddit is great fun. But guys, as I said, that's it from me for now. And all I want to do is see you all here next time. Goodbye!